All right, let's draw some mouths. So far we've done eyes, we've done noses, we've done ears. Let's get into the mouth. The mouth, obviously, it's gonna show a lot of expression. We've got some complexity in there with, smiling and teeth and all kinds of stuff going on. I'll repeat myself again, just like all the other features on the face, mouths come in a variety of shapes and sizes, big lips, small lips, thin lips, all kinds of stuff, okay? But I'm just gonna show you generally what I think about when I'm drawing mouths, okay? So let's go ahead and dive in. First of all, let's just talk about the placement again. Remember when I was talking about proportions on the face before, we've got the head that comes down like so. Actually, I'm just gonna draw it from the front. So if we got the head here, remember hairline, and bottom of the chin halfway down is your eye line. And then right about in here, we've got the nose line. And then in here, about a third of the way down, or a little more than a third, we've got that mouth line, okay? So remember that. And remember the corners of the mouth tend to come up usually around the center of the eye, okay? So just keep that in mind. But let's just go ahead and get into the drawing of the mouth. So the things I like to think about when I'm drawing is, first of all, we've got the little dent right here, which is called your philtrum. A little piece of useless trivia there. There's your philtrum that comes up underneath your nose. There's a little nostril and nose coming up right there. All right, so I usually start in there. I'm drawing it at a 3/4. And remember, you've got, it comes this way and then goes under. I'm gonna speak really obvious things today, but once again, I'll sound like a broken record. A lot of people forget the obvious. They get so caught up in trying to draw something that they actually forget the obvious stuff. So, the top lip tends to have, if I draw it from the front, tends to have this, almost like a bird flying at you, right? Like it's an eagle. Here's a bird, there's his head, and his wings are coming down, like so, and the feathers on the ends are pushing up because of the wind. So you got that feel. Now you got this shape which mimics the philtrum dent right there. That shape right there mimics that. And then I tend to follow that bottom lip. It kind of goes like this. So the mouth crease kind of tends to be kind of a shallow version of this line up here at the top of the lip. It kind of mimics it, but in a more shallow way. And then we got a little bit of the corner of the mouth right there. And then you tend to get a little fat. There's a little bunching of the skin right here. Now off the bottom lip, you tend to see more of the bottom lip, but not always. It could be, if someone's biting their lip, and there's all kinds of, that's one of the things we're going to talk about. I mean, look at, there's all kinds of muscles, and the mouth is very, very dexterous, and you can get so many different shapes with it, okay? So let's get in here. We got a little bit of a crease here, and there tends to be kind of a big shape here and a big shape here for the fat of the lower lip. And that lower lip tends to go, notice how I'm drawing it a little further than up here. Here it starts to, on the top, I'm gonna blow this up a little more. I'm drawing too small for you. There we go. It starts to curl under. If I were to, let me erase that. If I were to, and we'll do some shading here. If you think about this part, it kind of goes under, it folds underneath right here. And you can't really see a whole lot because I've got a mustache, but this folds under. So you get this kind of feel to that lip, to the bottom, to the mouth, okay? So remember, you get this line, the crease of the mouth tends to be kind of a shallower version of that upper lip. And you notice here, I kind of put a reverse dent. I mean, obviously you can sometimes just get a nice shape underneath, like if, let's see, if I draw this like so, once again, drawing that upper lip, you know, you could get bottom lips that go like that. I like to kind of, you know, separate them a little bit. Just, you know, once again, it doesn't matter because lips come in different shapes and sizes, but you can, you know, just keep that in mind. You know, you can feel it too. It kind of pushes up right along in here. Once again, you can't see it a whole lot because of my facial hair, but it, you know, it'll push up just a little bit in there sometimes. And that tends to be because of the chin. It depends on what's going on with the chin. If you look at the chin underneath here, this kind of tends to come up this way and this way. So this, you know, if we drew a line down, it would come down, cut in, cut out, cut in, and then cut out again for the chin. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Now let's go back to looking at it in 3/4. So here I've drawn this the top lip, and once again, it's mimicking that top piece, the top line of the mouth. Shrink that down a little bit. Now let's draw, so it comes in, out, like so. And I'm thinking about this as a, you know, some fat, and it comes down. This is a very full lip. It's a very full bottom lip that I'm drawing. And if you think about, if you look at the upper part of this part of the mouth, the lip right here, where I've got covered by a mustache, it'll come down and curl under. Remember I was saying it kind of curls under? It'll tend to do that right there. Like so. One of the fun things, one of the coolest mouths, and I actually enjoyed, it's just weird, it's interesting what you kind of remember and what you like to draw. But when I was working on Pocahontas, Glen Keane designed the character of Pocahontas. He's a brilliant animator who was my mentor as I was learning animation coming up through the industry. And when I was working on Pocahontas, I worked with Glen animating Pocahontas, the character. And one of the cool things he did with her mouth design, it was very simple but very full and very appealing, was this kind of, he got rid of this dent right here, and he just drew this lip that came up and came down. So it was a very full upper lip. And then this almost came down straight, like so. And it was just a very simple shape that was very, very appealing. And then her nose came off of there. So I just found that, I thought that was very interesting when I was animating her, when Glen was teaching us how to draw her. So I think about that when I'm drawing the lips. Let's look at it in profile. So let's say you have a nose that comes down. Okay, so this can come down to the top part of the lip, the philtrum. Remember, we got this, 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 this. And if you draw it without the mouth crease, it looks like a pucker. But you want to make sure you get that kind of feel. And that's, once again, that's going to vary a lot. And from the side, a lot of times that upper lip, you won't see a lot of it because it kind of tends to fold under. And then this bottom lip, you'll see a little bit more of. And then it cuts under like so. Here and there. Okay? And you can get all kinds of, you get dimples back here, you can have all kinds of stuff. But we're just talking about lips right now and mouths. Okay? Let's go ahead and try drawing the mouth open, because this is something else that you'll hear me talking a lot about. Young artists, young animators, A lot of times when they're drawing their characters with their mouths open, they'll forget about that jaw hinge. You know, your jaw, when you open your mouth, it hinges back here. So a lot of times that mouth, they'll draw the mouth wrong. They'll just draw it as something that just kind of drops down. It's almost like a nutcracker. It just the mouth comes down and comes back up. But in reality, we go like that, right? So let's just go ahead and draw something like that. And I want to talk about something else as I'm doing this. When I'm doing the mouth in different shapes, different expressions, different dialogue, I'll start very simple. So let's start with an open mouth. And you'll see what I'm talking about. Here I'm thinking about here's the corner. And look what I'm doing. This is all I'm doing. All right, now let's imagine there's teeth. There's teeth in here. And you'll notice I draw the teeth very simply first. Like so, and maybe there's a tongue back here. All right, so this is all dark. Back inside the mouth, like so. And the teeth come back like that, all right? Now, I always go very simple, and also think about this. I'm thinking about perspective. The teeth are going this way, everything's in perspective. So then I can build the lips right on. Lip comes down, and boom. Keeping it very simple. Going into the chin. Now, because this mouth is open, you'll get, depending on how big the character is, you're going to get a little bunching of skin in here, because if I were to draw this teeth out, you know, you'd have if you could see the jawbone underneath, it would come around, come back, and that jaw opens up right here and is hinged back there and comes up and will close, you know. It's the bottom jaw that moves. Remember that too. The bottom jaw moves, not the top of the head. That's another mistake people make. When I'm talking, you can see it's my bottom jaw that moves. I don't do that, okay? So remember that when you're drawing your characters, which we'll get into soon, okay? Let's do smiles. Like maybe an open mouth smile. So one thing, once again, starting with that open mouth, the very simple shape, I want you to remember, it's very rare. A lot of people will do this. You get a nice, and they'll get a hard corner like that. I'm going to draw from 3/4. So here's the teeth. Let's open the mouth up a little bit. And a lot of times they'll do this hard corner. It's like so. And sometimes you'll see that, but you really have to force. Here we go. Get those teeth drawn in there. There, see there? Now, a lot of times, most of the time, that's not how the mouth works. You don't get this, you know, you really have to kind of scrunch your lips together to get that open, to get that scrunched corner. Most of the time, our mouth opens up back here a little bit. So, I'm going to draw the same expression. The teeth coming back. Bottom teeth here. Okay. Here we go. But notice how I'm opening, I open that up. And we'll get some darkness back here. I'm also going to tighten those lips. The more you smile, if you smile, the upper lip is getting stretched, right? It's getting stretched across your teeth. We'll darken that up a little bit. So you can see that's usually what the corner of that mouth will look like. And we'll get that bottom lip drawn in like so. And let's darken up between so you can get a better sense of that mouth, how it's opening. Okay? So keep that in mind. You can still get a crease in the mouth, but do tend to think about it like that. And look at people's mouths. You'll see, you'll get a little bit of a crease here, but as you open your mouth, it tends to open up like that rather than that. Okay? This is looking at the corner of the mouth. It tends to be not that, but that. Okay? All right? And let's talk about the lighting a little bit. I'm going to draw a mouth here. And I want you to remember, a lot of times the lighting is coming from a source that's up above. Not always, but a lot of times. I'm going to show you lighting from below as well. So let's just talk about lighting in general when we're talking about the lips. Okay? Because, and here's the chin, you end up with a little bit of fat here, and the chin coming down. There's usually kind of a plane change in here. There we go. And that's kind of the upper part. And here we go with the nose, okay? Now the reason I'm drawing all of this is because I want you to think about, let's do this too. There we go. So the reason I'm drawing all of this is I want you to think about planes when we're thinking about lighting. This will apply to your characters as well. You got to think about the plane changes when we get to the character design part of all this. And a lot of that comes from thinking about the reality of how things really work. Okay, real world lighting situations. All right, so here we've got a mouth like so. Now let's pretend we've got light coming down from here. So if we come in here, if we think about the lighting coming down like so, in the direction of that arrow, this will be lit. This whole part of the upper lip, it's catching direct light. But the lip itself that curls under, the upper lip, well, that's all going to be in shadow. That goes right into shadow. I always think about my lighting in this way, okay? Now, the lower lip, well, that's going to catch light too, but this upper lip, maybe it's casting a little bit of shadow, okay? And as the light is coming down, as we come around, maybe it turns into shadow right along here. And it's going to be darker inside there, okay? And as the light comes, remember I was talking about in an earlier video that nose casting his shadow. I'm always thinking about this, that light source, where is it coming from? And maybe this is going to turn slightly into shadow as it turns away from the light source. Even the philtrum, maybe that side will go into shadow a little bit, and this will be just a little less lit. And as we continue down, thinking about all those different planes, and because this is curling under, we'll go into shadow. And as we continue down and we think about those plane changes, well, as this turns in. So all of this, I'm going to increase that brush size, all of this will go into shadow, right? And then as it comes into the light, it might be it's not as direct, but we'll go into hard shadow here, dark shadow, like so. And as we continue down, once again, thinking about where that light is falling, this is going to get more direct light, that part of the chin. And maybe, just like on the lip up here, it's going to turn away and turn into shadow. I'm always thinking about where that light source is, okay? And then once again, as the chin turns and turns away from that light source, it turns under, we're going to go into shadow again. Okay? So you can see, with just thinking a little bit logically, and let's go in here and hit some of these areas to hit maybe a little darker. You know, it's going to be a little darker in here because there's no bounce light getting up in there. Maybe it's a little darker in there, a little darker in there, like so. Definitely up in that nostril, a dark cave up in that nostril. So just thinking, a little bit logically, you can figure out your lighting situations. Okay, let me bring this up. I can come over here, and all of this, coming up the face, you might catch a little bit of light coming off that cheek, but all of this is going to go into shadow. Okay, and maybe a little bit under there because it's not as direct. Maybe a little bit under there, it's not as direct. But you can see that upper lip will tend to be dark because of the lighting, and then the bottom lip will catch light, and then we go into shadow. Now, what if the lighting is reversed? Remember, I was talking about we can do some lighting from underneath. What if that light source now is coming from here? There we go. What if it's coming from, there we go, the bottom? Well, let's just use the same thinking, right? Let me, I'm going to fill out this drawing just a little bit more because when we get up to the nose, it's going to affect it. So I want to make sure that this is all filled out the right way. Okay, so as we are lit from the bottom, let's just think the opposite, okay? This is all going to be in direct light. This part of the chin may not be. So now instead of it being lit, it's going to go into shadow, right? Think about your planes. That's what I want you to do. I don't want you to fall into, a lot of people will just randomly throw shadows because it'll make it look round. Don't think about it randomly. Think about the logic. Think about where that light source is coming from and how it affects the planes of your character in space. The more you can do that, the more it's going to root your character in the real world, or in the world that you're trying to create. So that top part of the chin will be in shadow coming up. Well, now the bottom part, we had it in shadow before, but now that we've changed the light source, that bottom part is going to be lit. And then that bottom lip, now that is in shadow, right? So let's just hit that. And maybe it's casting a little bit of a shadow up on the upper lip. Maybe this part here is kind of casting a shadow up. And then as we continue up, well, that upper lip, above the upper lip here, between the nose, that's going to go into shadow now. It's not going to be lit. And once again, maybe it's casting a little bit of a shadow on the nose. And then now, the upper part of that nose, well, now that's going to go into shadow, right? And all of a sudden you can see it looks like, oh my gosh, we're kind of, it looks like he's being lit. Maybe he's sitting around a campfire, sitting around the campfire and telling stories. And you get this sense right here that he's lit from the bottom. Because I'm thinking about the light source, I'm thinking about plane changes. Maybe here it turns away from the light just a little bit, so we can darken that a hair. And over here, because it's off to the light source is off to the left, we'll darken that right side over here. And now you can see, because I'm thinking about those planes and the lips, that, and let's hit this too. There we go. Make that nice and hard. There we go. I get a sense of form. That's the great thing about when you start lighting your characters. It'll really get a great sense of form. So let's jump between these two. So here we've got the face and the lips that are lit from down below, and now it's lit from the top. Just thinking about, and you get a totally different feel, going back and forth. You get a completely different feel just by thinking where that light source is and being logical about it and letting it hit the form of your character, of the face. Okay? I want to talk about one more thing about the mouth. What does it look like from different angles? Well, keeping in mind that those lips, I've shown you, how they cut in, how the upper lip cuts in, the lower lip comes out. Keeping that in mind, what if we're looking down on the mouth? Well, I'm just going to go ahead. First, I'm going to draw that, let's say it's a smile. Well, I'm just going to draw a very happy face. And we're looking down. Let's say here's the nose coming in like this. Okay? Well, because we're looking down, remember if I would draw it from the side, that lip cuts in and the lower lip comes out, right? Well, if we're looking down in this direction, we're only going to see a tiny little bit of that upper lip. And we're going to see a whole bunch of that bottom lip. So quite often, if you're drawing a character that's looking down, you're only going to see a tiny little bit, like so. And then a whole bunch of the bottom lip. Okay? And the same goes if you're looking up. So let's say we've got the nose here, big old nostrils, like so. Okay? Well, here, you might see a whole bunch of that upper lip, but then not much of the bottom lip, because we're looking this way now. Okay? We're looking in this direction, so we're only seeing a tiny little bit there, but we're seeing a whole bunch of the upper lip right there. So once again, it just goes back to thinking logically, thinking about space. Imagine your character in space. Think about the angle and how things are going to look from those angles, okay? So that's a very brief description of the mouth. The best advice I can give you is to go out, just like the other features on the face, and observe. Look at people. Look at yourself. Set up a mirror. Open your mouth. Do different shapes, that sort of thing. We're going to get into expressions later on as we caricature, and we'll get into more of that, what you can do with the mouth. And it's surprising how simple you're going to find, how the simpler the shape, the more expressive you're going to get in your expressions. Okay, so that's the mouth. Why don't we move on?